Welcome to The Know, I'm Mica.
I'm Gus.
The buzzword everybody hates is making the rounds again this week. Yep, we're talking about games as a service. Only this time, it's because we've got people in the industry pushing back at the idea, including the head of PlayStation.
After already expressing their continued support for single-player and narrative games just last month, it looks like PlayStation is now doubling down against games as a service, and they're not the only ones.
That's definitely going to be a welcome sign for gamers who might be worried about the changes we've seen over the last year in gaming. And it could be a sign of more good things to come in 2018.
These new comments come courtesy of PlayStation's new boss, John Kdin, who just took over for former president and CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment, Andrew House. Kdin just joined Twitter this week, and already fans are starting to approach him with a few concerns because they don't want to see PlayStation change too much as a brand under new management.
One user wrote to Kdin saying, "Please just don't go crazy with the games as a service thing and continue to make great single-player games for us single-player gamers/fans. It's the main reason why we game on PlayStation."
To which Kdin says, "Don't worry." Kdin wrote back on Twitter, "I will do my best to continue the excellent work done by Mr. Andrew House PS. About the issue of games as a service, do not worry about it. At PlayStation's vision is totally different."
Only on Twitter for a couple of days, and he already knows how to pander to the base. Good for you. Proud of you, Kdin. These are definitely some nice comments for fans who feel put off by the games as a service model, and really it sounds like something PlayStation is totally committed to because they view their role in the industry as something different altogether.
Which mostly sounds like they're talking about single-player games. The worry that more major developers would pull away from single-player mostly stems from, a lot of overwhelming evidence and some bad trends that we saw toward the end of 2017. A big part of that conversation started when EA announced the closure of Visceral, citing the Star Wars game as being too linear, which some people interpreted as code for single-player only.
However, PlayStation has already been on record once as being anti-games as a service. Back at PSX in December, Sean Layden, president of SIE America, made some very similar comments.
In an interview with Kinda Funny's Greg Miller, I know that guy, who asked him about his vision for PlayStation next year, Layden had this to say, "Well, I think we continue along our path. We have a lot of energy, a lot of devotion, a lot of love around storytelling, around narrative. You know, some people call it single-player gaming. We do have most of our eggs in that basket because that's the thing we do well. And I don't want to go to any of those teams and tell them, I read in a magazine that there's something called games as a service, make me one of those. I don't want to be that guy. So that's what we do. We do Horizon, we do God of War, we do Detroit, Uncharted, The Last of Us. These are things we're gonna continue to lean into really strong."
Those comments were a pretty big deal at the time, seeing as how they were coming from the head of PlayStation's American branch. However, these new comments from Kdin are coming all the way from the top of Sony's gaming arm altogether, which seems to indicate that we probably don't have anything to worry about on that front for the foreseeable future.
And Sony wasn't the only one saying stuff about games as a service this week. Capcom joined the fray too, talking about the upcoming Monster Hunter.
In a new interview with Metro, Monster Hunter World producer Ryozo Sugimoto said that even though they plan to support Monster Hunter World with loads of post-release content, they're not considering it an ongoing title with endless service-like support.
Sugimoto said, "We definitely don't plan this game to be 5 or 10 year client where you buy it and then you have content for the next decade. We always have had a really rich post-launch experience for Monster Hunter players with lots of free DLC and extra quests. It's a regular game with a really meaty post-launch content schedule, but it's not like a service."
It's kind of crazy that at this time in gaming, it's noteworthy when your studio says you're going to treat your video game like a video game rather than some kind of subscription product that dominates all your free time. Because a number of studios have actually said the opposite, with EA, Activision, Ubisoft, and Square Enix all firmly stating their intentions when it comes to games as a service.
It's also interesting to note that along with the rise of games as a service from all over the industry, we've also seen a pretty remarkable turnaround for single-player games. 2017 brought some amazing single-player titles like Horizon Zero Dawn, Persona 5, Breath of the Wild, Nier Automata, Neo, Super Mario Odyssey, and Assassin's Creed Origins.
And in that department, both Sony and Nintendo are really putting their money where their mouths are. Although, to be fair, it's worth noting that it's a bit easier for the first-party guys to make their money go a bit further than the third-party. They're not paying 20 to 30% platform fee off the top for every game they sell, so they could do more with less when it comes to budget.
So far in 2018 for Sony, that budget seems to be going primarily to single-player titles without microtransactions. On the list for this year, they've got God of War, Spider-Man, Shadow of the Colossus, and Detroit Become Human.
It's nice to see them really supporting single-player in a big way, and we're not leaving Xbox out of that because they're not doing that. It just doesn't seem to be, quite as big of a focus for them. More of the games lately do seem to live on being bigger services for a wide audience, things like Minecraft, Sea of Thieves, and the continually updated Halo, for instance.
So hey, those are some good signs for gamers who might be a little wary of all this talk about microtransactions and increasing engagement, because we've had plenty of signs telling us the exact opposite from a number of gaming companies lately, with publishers going so far as patenting ways to keep gamers coming back for more, spending more hours in each title, and ultimately giving more money.
Or you could just try to focus on making great games that people want to buy. Fun fact, that works too.
Well, what do you guys think of the head of Sony speaking out against games as a service? Let us know in the comments.
For future updates on all the great single-player games to look forward to in 2018 and reasons why you don't need friends, you just need yourself, remember to like this video, and if you're new around here, subscribe to the now.
These new comments come courtesy of PlayStation's new boss, John Codera, who just took over for former president and CEO of Interactive Entertainment. I skipped the word Sony. That's like an important one in there. These new to which Codera says, "Don't worry." Codera wrote back on Twitter,